Right, apologies if this one's a little bit all over the place, but it's not the video I intended to do today, and I've not really scripted it at all. I've not really written any notes, so apologies if it's not particularly well directed, but I felt it was something that I had to talk about. And I'll get to the meat of it in a moment, but basically what happened is yesterday I was doing two things at the same time. I was looking through Discord and I was talking to a friend of mine via text as well. And what we were doing over text was basically, chewing the fat as we usually do. And it came round to Zelda. And I briefly said that I thought that Zelda was at best an 8 out of 10. And he joked that I was a complete Philistine. At which point I laughed and said that yes, I probably was. And at the same time, I was looking at Discord, as I've said, and Grant from Over the Edge had put up a link to Jim Sterling's website and his review of Breath of the Wild. And so I thought I'd click on it, as I was talking about Zelda Breath of the Wild at the time, and I tried to click on it. And when I tried to get into his website, I couldn't. And it turns out that the reason I couldn't get into Jim Sterling's website was because it was experiencing a distributed denial of service, or a DDoS attack. And why was this? What was his heinous crime? Had it turned out that he'd been murdering children? Had he been travelling around the world dropping bombs on people indiscriminately? Was he a serial killer or something? No. Why he was getting a DDoS attack on his site was because he had reviewed Zelda and given it a decent review. Yep, he'd given it a decent review. He gave it a 7 out of 10, which was slightly below what I said with the 8 out of 10. But I sort of think that 7, 8 out of 10 is about right. And I know that people will disagree with me, and some of you may think that it deserves a much higher score. And that's absolutely fine. Jim Sterling himself said that he'd been talking to another reviewer and they'd given it a 10 out of 10 and they disagreed with each other, but they are still friends and they're still talking and they're still behaving like reasonable, sensible, intelligent human beings towards one another. Because that's what reasonably intelligent human beings do. They have a conversation, they agree, they disagree, they either agree to differ or they come to some sort of consensus about where things lie. And that's how we move on. As Sam Harris puts it, civilization moves forward through a series of successful conversations. And I think he's absolutely right. But obviously, these guys out here who have issued this denial of service against Jim Sterling either haven't read round enough to understand the meaning of free speech, or they just have no respect for it. So they're anti-free speech. These people, these morons, these utter cretinous, knuckle-dragging shit stains are anti-free speech. They are against any of us, you, me, anybody out there who has an opinion that is different to theirs. And this is a totalitarian mindset. And what do I mean by that? Well, whenever you get a dictator coming into a country and taking over, one of the first things they do is they get rid of the news agencies, they get rid of the free press, and then they go after the academics and the intellectuals. And why is that? It's because those people can make reasoned arguments and explain why what those people are doing is wrong. They don't want dissent. That is a totalitarian approach to discourse. The totalitarian mindset cannot stomach free speech. It cannot stomach anyone saying something that they don't agree with. And this is what these people are doing. Jim Sterling says something they don't agree with. So rather than engaging with him, rather than getting involved in a debate, rather than going in his comments and making a reasoned argument as to why they think he's wrong, instead of making their own videos or writing their own blog explaining why they think that his review score was incorrect, they attack him. They attack his livelihood and they attack his ability to disseminate his opinion. As I said before, this is anti-free speech. And what these people also need to understand is it's also illegal. Do you really want to end up in prison over a fucking game? Do you? Do you really want a criminal record over a game? Over a game that a reviewer gave a decent score for. 7 out of 10 is not a bad review score. I've had games that I've really enjoyed in the past that have had far worse reviews. So fucking what? I may make some comment about the reviewer being a cretin, or I may disagree with what they have to say. You know, I may even get a little bit irritated about it. But I don't get involved in trying to stop that person's livelihood. What sort of idiot does that? Is there something seriously wrong with your fucking head that you have to go after someone's livelihood just because you don't agree with them? Think about it for a minute. And when you've finished thinking about it, go and take a good look at yourselves in the mirror. Because Jim Sterling isn't the problem here. You are. And you will continue to be a problem, not only for reviewers and for critics like Jim Sterling and the other people who are out there, but for the gaming community generally. You are not helping. Whenever the wider press wants to point a finger at the morons and the knuckle draggers that they perceive us to be, they point at you. They don't point at me. They don't point at Jim Sterling. They don't point at the other reviewers who make honest reviews. They point at you. They point at the people who are incapable of taking any dissent at all. Can you understand that? Can you understand that? Or are you just going to continue along these lines, behaving like psychotic apes, trying to beat each other over their head whenever anything happens that you don't agree with or that you somehow can't process? Are you incapable of processing the fact that somebody can disagree with you? Because here's the thing, you will have an opinion now, and then 6 weeks down the line, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, you're going to change that opinion. So should I get you a time machine so that you can go back in time and beat the crap out of yourself in the past? Because we all change our opinions. Jim Sterling might come round to the idea that Zelda's a better game than he originally thought. He might come round to the idea that Zelda's a worse game than he originally thought. But here's the other thing as well. It's really, really difficult to make a decision about something, to come to a reasoned conclusion about something when you've got people haranguing you from every side. And I don't know about Jim Sterling, but I would suspect he's a little bit like me. That if people start haranguing me and trying to bully me, far from getting me to agree with them, they will have precisely the opposite effect. So think about it a moment. If you want people to get on your side, don't go after them. If you go up to somebody in a pub and you punch them in the face, they're not going to agree with you. In fact, they'll probably avoid you. So stop. Stop and think. Stop behaving like psychotic apes. And try to approach this from a level-headed perspective. Please, just try. Fanboyism is killing gaming. It's putting people like me off the whole hobby. I love games. I really enjoy it. I find it something that I do to relax. And you people out there are not helping the industry. You're making us all look bad. Anyway, as I say, I'm sorry if this one rambled on a bit. I had to get this off my chest because I'm sick, sorry and tired of these fucking morons. But anyway, what do you think? As I say, I'm an advocate of free speech, so come and tell me what you think in the comments. And feel free to disagree with me, because that's what reasonable people do with one another. They have conversations, they agree, they disagree. So let me know what you think. And in the meantime, I'm getting a cup of tea. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.